Life is rough, like really rough. But what if there is something more that most of us just avoid? And what if we just pursued this ambiguous thing? Then what would happen? So, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the call to adventure. This is something that we all feel, but I think most of us avoid it because it is scary, uncertain, and filled with danger. Lots of danger. But is that such a bad thing? Let's look at this from the perspective of a story or a hero's journey. The hero's journey really represents the masculine life. And this is important because it helps us, through symbolism, to actually map out our lives. For example, the call to adventure is a key part of the hero's journey. The hero yearns for something more, like the Buddha or Luke Skywalker. Maybe life is easy or comfortable, but I think no matter what, you will either be thrust into adventure unwillingly, embark on adventure willingly, or cower away from adventure and never truly grow. I think a lot of us feel this call to adventure, but why do we not follow that which compels us? And again, because it's scary, dangerous, and filled with uncertainty. We know this for sure because in these stories, the adventure is never easy because that wouldn't make for a very good story. And then the hero would never actually grow and never actually become the hero. So what does the Buddha find on his journey? Suffering. What does Luke Skywalker find on his journey? Pain. He loses Obi-Wan Kenobi, he gets his arm cut off, and then he loses his father. But in both of these stories, the hero overcomes this in the end. The question is not whether we suffer when we embark on adventure, but it is a question of whether or not we will overcome suffering. So suffering is inevitable, but that does not mean we should just stay where we are in life, because whether we like it or not, adventure is calling. This is why so many young men are compelled by stories that depict the hero's journey, and that is because we see ourselves in these stories, and probably we want to be more like the hero in these stories, even though we know that the character is fictional. But on some level, we do understand that in order to undergo radical transformation and become a genuinely impressive and good man, we must follow the call to adventure and ultimately suffer. But if we do come out the other side, well, we will never be the same. But is that necessarily bad? It's complicated, but no, I don't think so. So how do we know what the call to adventure is, and how do we find meaning in our lives? The call to adventure is that voice inside of us that wants more. It wants meaning, and that meaning can only be found through adventure. Our unconscious is pointing us in a direction, like a compass, and we have to listen to it, even if it tells us to do something difficult. If you follow it, maybe you find meaning in your work, maybe you meet a girl and fall in love, or maybe you fall into the dark abyss and have to figure out how to climb out of it. All the important things in life come from adventure. Well, what do I know about anything? Who knows, right? But I do think that stories imitate the human experience, and we should pay attention to story archetypes because we can relate our lives to these archetypes. So if you are someone who is moved by these stories of the hero's journey, then you likely feel that call to adventure within you. And I'm not exactly sure what happens next, but I do know that we are meant to follow it.